The version history of the Android mobile operating system began with the public release of the Android beta on November 5, 2007. The first commercial version, Android 1.0, was released on September 23, 2008. Android is continually developed by Google and the Open Handset Alliance, and it has seen a number of updates to its base operating system since the initial release. Android 1.0 and 1.1 were not released under specific code names, although Android 1.1 was unofficially known as Petty 4. Android code names were confectionery themed and have been in alphabetical order since 2009's Android 1.5 Cupcake. Google ended the confectionery theming scheme in 2019, beginning with Android 10. The most recent version of Android is Android 10, which was released in September 2019. The development of Android started in 2003 by Android, Inc., which was purchased by Google in 2005. There were at least 2 internal releases of the software inside Google and the OHA before the beta version was released. The codenames, Astro Boy and Bender, were only known to be tagged internally on some early pre-1.0 milestone builds, and were never used as the actual codenames of the 1.0 and 1.1 release of the OS. Dan Morrill created some of the first mascot logos, but the current Android logo was designed by Irina Block. The project manager, Ryan Gibson, conceived the confectionery-themed naming scheme that has been used for the majority of the public releases, starting with Android 1.5 Cupcake. The beta was released on November 5, 2007, while the software development kit was released on November 12, 2007. The November 5 date is popularly celebrated as Android's birthday. Public beta versions of the SDK were released in the following order. The following tables show the release dates and key features of all Android operating system updates to date, listed chronologically by their official application programming interface levels. Lollipop features a redesigned user interface built around a responsive design language referred to as Material Design. Other changes include improvements to the notifications, which can be accessed from the lock screen and displayed within applications as top-of-the-screen banners. Furthermore, Google made internal changes to the platform, with the Android runtime officially replacing Dalvik for improved application performance, and with changes intended to improve and optimize battery usage, known internally as Project Volta. On July 10, 2019, Google released Beta 5 with the final API 29 SDK as well as the latest optimizations and bug fixes. This is the release candidate for testing. On August 7, 2019, Google released Beta 6, which is thought to be the last beta before the announcement of Android Q on August 22, 2019. Google announced that the official release version would be called just Android 10, dropping the convention of using letter and dessert nicknames publicly. Android 10 was going to be known as Queen Cake. Internally, Android 10 is known as Quince Tart. The stable version of Android 10 was released on September 3, 2019. The main hardware platform for Android is the ARM architecture, with x86 and MIPS architectures also officially supported in later versions of Android, but MIPS support has since been deprecated and support was removed in NDK R17. Unofficial Android x86 project used to provide support for the x86 and MIPS architectures ahead of the official support. In 2012, Android devices with Intel processors began to appear, including phones and tablets. While gaining support for 64-bit platforms, Android was first made to run on 64-bit x86 and then on ARM64. Since Android 5.0 Lollipop, 64-bit variants of all platforms are supported in addition to the 32-bit variants. Requirements for the minimum amount of RAM for devices running Android 7.1 depend on screen size and density and type of CPU, ranging from 816 MB to 1.8 GB for 64-bit and 512 MB to 1.3 GB for 32-bit, meaning in practice 1 GB for the most common type of display. The recommendation for Android 4.4 is to have at least 512 MB of RAM, while for low-RAM devices 340 MB is the required minimum amount that does not include memory dedicated to various hardware components such as the baseband processor. Android 4.4 requires a 32-bit ARMv7, MIPS or x86 architecture processor, together with an OpenGL ES 2.0 compatible graphics processing unit. Android supports OpenGL ES 1.1, 2.0, 3.0, 3.2 and since Android 7.0 Vulkan. Some